Welcome everyone to SEO Office Hours. My name is Michael Chidzey. I'm an SEO here at Good Signals. And part of what we do, along with special guests, are these office hour sessions where people can jump in and ask their questions around their website and web search. By the way, nobody here is in the hot seat and we might not know all the answers, but multiple heads thinking about a problem should help. We've had a bunch of questions submitted already, as you can see, which we'll go through. But if there's anybody here live on the call who would like to ask any questions, please feel free to flag yourself in the chat functionality, which will be monitored. Also, there's usually a bunch of other amazing SEOs on the call that share their ideas, experiences, and perspectives. I think personally, that's one of the best things about office hours, isn't just the four of us answering your questions, but everybody else as well. So please continue to do that. And every week with me today is Juliana Turnbull, also known as SEO Joe Blogs. Good morning. Happy Valentine's. How are you?
Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming to SEO Office Hours. This is our 59th episode, 59 sessions.
Hey.
We have our guests calling in from Spain, UK, India, Pakistan, Switzerland, Nigeria, but let us know where else you may be calling in from. Just want to give a welcome to Simon, Hannah, Natalia, John, Louise, Dan, Gatsy, Francesca, Deepak, Monsi, Neil, Boran, Olesa, Walid, Albert, Ikra, Lot, and Favor. Thank you all for coming in. Oh, we also have from Germany and Cape Town, South Africa. We've got a very international SEO office hours here today. So, and happy Valentine's Day. I know it's a bit commercial, but I do like these commercial aspects of it. As Mike said, I'm Juliana Turnbull, and I run a digital networking group called Search London, and we have a Barcelona version here where I'm based, and we also run it online. Actually, our next event is February 28th, and we also have our dinner on February 25th. So if you're in Barcelona, let me know and you can come. So I want to give a warm welcome to our two special guests today. We have Preeti and Helen. Thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having us.
Great to be here. Hello, everyone. Good morning.
So welcome back, Helen, and we also welcome Preeti, who has been a regular attendee for many of the episodes. So thank you for coming onto the show. Preeti is the founder and growth consultant at Packet. She helps SEO SaaS companies attract the right users, reduce that churn, and increase engagement by ensuring that they try, love, and stick with the product using the product growth principles. She's very prominent in the SEO community. She was recently featured on the SEO Mindset podcast. She's spoken at Bright Local's SEO for Good as well. And her expertise has earned her many mentions in publications and on websites such as HubSpot, Search Engine Land, Women in Tech SEO. She also wrote for Moz, and she's been featured several times in SEO FOMO. And Preeti, you were running the Indian meetups in Women in Tech SEO, and you're going to be running a webinar at the end of this month, I believe. So Preeti is going to be a guest on a webinar run by Rank Suite, so Billy Jean, and it's going to be on February 26th. I'll just share the link in the chat. And she can talk more about that later. Yeah, I'll share that link in the chat in a minute. And this time I'd like to welcome back Helen. So Helen came on one of our earlier episodes. Helen is the director of SEO at Getty Images. She previously was head of SEO at Car and Classic. She is a senior SEO leader in our industry. She has a passion for building dynamic and great digital marketing teams. She drives revenue through exceptional SEO strategies. She has been speaking at many great events, WTS Fest. She's also spoken at Brighton SEO, SMX London, and she is a great writer. Her articles on Search Engine Journal and Search Engine Land get many views and reads. And she's actually speaking at SMX Munich next month. Please go to SMX Munich and see her along with other great speakers, of course. And I will share the link to Preeti and Helen's LinkedIn profiles. You can connect with them there. Preeti, I was just mentioning about your webinar on February 26th at 10 a.m. UK time. If you wanted to mention a little bit more about the webinar.
Yeah, it's going to be about freelancing. It will be series basic freelancing, which will have. So, yep.
I think we just missed a couple of I missed a couple of points on that one, but basically the webinar is called Freelancing Unfiltered. Is it the right time for you to go freelance? And this is run by Rank Suite, or Billie Jean, who's running Rank Suite. Look forward to that. Sign up. It's at 10 a.m. on February 26th, Wednesday. Okay, we've got loads of questions in that we have to answer today. So I'll pass back to you, Mike.
Great. Okay, question number one. What's the best way to structure SEO for a business that operates through partnerships and referrals rather than high volume search traffic? And I've been sent a website as well, so I'll just put that in the chat for anybody that's on the call in case they want to take a look and if they have any ideas. But those of you watching on YouTube, this is basically a company that offers AI solutions, essentially. Who would like to kick off? Helen, have you had a chance? Did you have a chance? Sorry, I'm putting you totally on the spot here. Did you have a chance to take a look?
No, I'm joking. I'm here. I'm just going to keep doing that throughout the entire webinar, if that's all right, just to keep scaring you into, oh, the internet's gone again. Yes, I love these questions because I think it really comes to the heart of what SEO is about. Anyone who's ever worked agency side or has worked as a consultant will have had those conversations with prospective clients where you just think, don't know if SEO is necessarily right for you. I don't know whether you need to really invest that heavily given the nature of your business, but there's always things that we can be doing as SEOs to help our websites be more visible, even if we're not necessarily relying on capturing people through that early discovery phase of SEO. So for me, if you are the sort of company that really thrives on partnerships and word of mouth and recommendations, there's still a need for you to be found for your brand for a start. So for me, it'd be really around making sure that you are owning the SERPs for your brand name. And that could be quite difficult if you're a brand that's got a name that is synonymous with something else or is just a word. That can be quite tricky to do. That can be a lot of work in itself, is actually making sure that you're visible when someone is just trying to find information about your brand. And that is often something people do if they have been recommended your company or you're in a partnership with another company, they will still want to research you, and it's good to be visible for your brand. But I'd also look at how else can you utilize the search results? So are you able to answer questions? Do you have a body of knowledge that you can share on your website that means that you'll be able to capture people's interest who are searching for information around your subject? So you might not necessarily be trying to target really commercial high search volume terms, but you can still help to answer people's questions. You can still be visible in the search results, but you just need to think about why you're doing it. And it's not all about just trying to convert users and get money out the back of it. There can be supportive content that you have on your website that you want people to find. And that's a brilliant reason to be investing in SEO, is actually to build up some of that reputation within the industry that you're in, not necessarily just because you're trying to target those high converting search terms, especially if you don't feel that there are really high converting search terms that you're looking to target for your industry. But there's other ways that you can be useful to users online.
Amazing. Preeti, do you have any thoughts?
Helen basically nailed it. And I just want to add that from one business owner to another, I think if SEO is not working a lot for you, or your business is mainly run through partnerships and referrals, as it is mentioned in the question, I think you should just double down on that if it is working for you. And when it comes to SEO, you might not need to invest it in right now, because SEO is not like just do it and set it to the side and don't touch it again. So I just think that if it is working for you as a business, then go do what you're doing best and double down on it. And you can just come back to SEO and just, as Simon said, like just building a brand would be even more nicer. And also trying to find channels which work best for your kind of audience would be much more better than just targeting it if it is not the ideal channel for your audience.
Amazing. Joe, do you have any thoughts?
I would say the best way to work on your business, if you're operating through partnerships and referrals, what about communities? Have you tapped into communities? Are you part of different communities? This is a topic that I obviously feel very passionate about. See if you have something different that you can offer. Can you form a community, or is there a gap in the market? and see what you can do that. And that could also be part of your brand as well. So that's what I would suggest. Really invest and see, is there a gap in the community that you can fill for your company and also because you want to pay it forward.
Amazing. Yeah, I agree with everybody else. I think I disagree a little bit with the question actually, because I imagine in this industry there are probably lots of high volume terms, and it's an industry that will continue to grow where people are looking for AI solutions. So it may not be that particular term, but it's just going to become even more popular than ever. So I think there is that, but I think if it's only a small business and you only need a handful of clients or whatever at a time, I think you'd have to spend a lot of time and money in SEO to be the one that appears. And I just think it's probably worth, like others were saying, focusing on the things that you know works for you, such as building relationships on LinkedIn, for example, and Joe said other communities. I think PR is a good option here, where getting in contact or working with possibly like a PR agency where people are going to be writing about this more and more over the next couple of years. And if you can be the one that journalists go to when they need some thoughts from somebody actually working in this industry, then that's great. But that's not necessarily from a link building perspective. It's just more to appear where there are eyeballs who are reading about this sort of thing. And then lastly, the only other thing I can think of from an SEO perspective is you could look and see what else is ranking for these terms at the moment, such as if there are sort of companies that are recommended, like those type of posts, or depends on what appears, and try and speak to that journalist about trying to get featured on those and explain why. But yeah, personally, if it was me, I'd probably obviously make sure my website looks lovely and focus on branding. I think Preeti said that, but actually use it more as a place that people come to once they know who you are, rather than trying to spend a lot on trying to be number one, because it's just really competitive. Unless you are the one that you think deserves to be number one, maybe I've misunderstood the size of the business and stuff, but if you think actually it doesn't make sense that we're not, then I think that's different. But if you're one of many that do these sort of AI solutions, there are probably smarter ways to build those referrals and relationships. And obviously Joe said as well about communities, going to events and things like that where you can build partnerships. Joe, do we have anything in the chat?
We do, yes. Lots of chit chat here. Sam was talking about building your brand. So use SEO techniques to get that brand noticed. And as Helen has said, all of this, and Helen had said all of that actually as he was typing it. John saying it feels like a challenging and new commodity niche. So brand building is one way to stand out. Technical SEO is important to put in place though, Simon says. The site has drop-down lists of AI automation under services that have content that might be not in Google at the moment. Yeah, brilliant basics. The tech SEO element of the site needs a little bit of work. Naveen says that people will still Google you, so make sure that you rank well for your brand keywords, brand and your review keywords. Yeah, so Rob has made some comments about that he can't really find some of the content in the search results, so he's not sure if it's being indexed or not, crawled and indexed. So back to what Simon said, look at the tech SEO, and yeah, maybe there should be a webinar. But Monsi is also saying don't put all your eggs in one basket. SEO communities, PR, like you mentioned, Mike, good channels to help build those partnerships. It is great to have all these comments and questions, and thanks very much. I do emphasize the fact of communities. Obviously, we had a WTS Fest is next week in London, and it is run by the community Women in Tech SEO, which is set up by Arij, and it's been running for 6 years, and that is a great community, has 10,000 members, and that's a great way to support others, help others, and network as well with others in our industry.
Amazing. Just having to think about this. I would also look at development agencies or branding agencies and just see that have similar customers to you, and maybe see what they're doing and see if there's anything that you can cherry pick and come up with your version of that's worked for them. Not necessarily from an SEO perspective, but maybe the type of talks they're giving or what they're sharing on social, that sort of stuff might be good inspiration. Great. Okay, hopefully that helped. Next question, quick gut check. The person in my role before me regularly updated our disavow list, but I'm thinking about removing it or at least rolling it back a year. What's your take? Worth keeping, or is that going to do more harm than good? Interesting one, is it?
Yes.
Else thought about this? Preeti, you're nodding. Are you okay to go first?
Yeah, sure. I think disavow are disavow lists are given a lot more importance than they should. That's just my thought. And so I think if there are better things to focus on, please focus on them. And yeah, that's it.
And so if you went into a job and somebody else had been updating it, say once a month or once every 3 months, and they were spending their time doing that, what would you just leave it and just do the other things, or would you roll back?
I don't know. Like, it's more if they have been doing it, I'm like, bro, it's okay, just chill.
Okay, cool. Helen, do you have any thoughts?
To be honest, if someone was spending their time updating a disavow file every month, I'd probably be more worried about what they haven't been doing in the meantime. So for me, that would just be a huge red flag that probably nothing else had been taken care of on the website. So I would probably cry some small tears of sadness and frustration, and then do a full tech audit to see what had just been left to die in the meantime. But no, I would not continue to be methodically updating a disavow file. How do you even find them these days? Where even are they? Because they're not easy to get to anymore. I definitely wouldn't be arbitrarily rolling it back a year. I don't know what that would be trying to achieve. I guess the fear would be that something's been disavowed that doesn't need to be disavowed, perhaps, but I would honestly put this away from your mind and focus on other things. I don't think this is something that needs to be taking up too much of your time and attention. I'd maybe do a quick audit to see whether anything on the disavow file had potentially been disavowed for a good reason or potentially not good reason. And then I would just put it into that corner of my mind that no longer dwells on things and probably make myself a coffee.
Okay, Joe, what do you think? Are you making a coffee as well?
I did a lot of disavowing, but this is back like in 2000 and yeah, no, it was a long time ago. And yes, those people were doing some spammy link building, and yes, they had been affected. So we did do that. I will share some sources. I will share these links in our chat, but it doesn't seem like disavowing really makes a big difference nowadays. Of course, we can feel to comment in our chat here, but I don't know why. We haven't said why they're disavowing. If you've got a manual action, then maybe they could do a disavow. But if they don't have a manual action, I don't know why they keep doing this. It's a lot of time. I know I went through it personally. It was very painful. But if you don't have this manual action, I don't see why. And also going back to like, why are you having all these spammy links? Find the source of it instead of doing the stuff after, like disavowing. So I'm going to share a couple of posts that are asking, is it really that relevant to be doing? And this is in 2024. This is a post by Majestic. It doesn't seem to be, but this is also a post by Link Research Tools saying that they're saying that the Google Disavow link tool is important, even though Google now tries to find spammy links automatically. So I will share that in the chat here, and you can read to your heart's content.
Helen, you said that you would cry if you saw this. I think I'd be the opposite. I'd be thinking, cool, I'm gonna ace this job because I can do all these other things.
Straight away by actually doing some meaningful work rather than
Yeah.
my time disavowing things.
So obviously the question that the person's asking whether they should just remove what's been done. I guess if you wanted to, you could and test it and see. I agree with everybody else, though. I think you could probably spend your time creating really cool campaigns to earn more links or create great content or improve your website or all of that stuff. But if you are going to do it, I would just monitor, come up with a way of working out whether that was successful or not. But I'm guessing they were put there originally for a reason, so I probably wouldn't. Yeah, I'm with everybody else. I think just carry on, do other things. Cool. Okay. Is there anything in the chat, Joe, before I know some people said it's become like disavow, a question about disavow every week. Anything else in the chat?
Hey, yeah, there's quite a few things in the chat. Sorry, just a few chats. Disavow the disavow file. That's a joke. So Albert said we disavowed the disavow file, then our rankings improved. Francesca saying it's back to 2011. Disavowing may start in SEO. Fun times. Other people saying can't remember the last time I did it. Albert saying yeah, Google is smart enough to omit these bad links anyway. Yeah. Rob is also talking about having a meeting with other people, just finding out what actually is their SEO knowledge. Time spent on the disavow file, as we've all talked about, could be used to create some great campaigns, create some digital key PR campaigns. So someone else now been saying I did the disavow list once, updated it back in 2012. So yeah, I think we'll move forward and do some other fun stuff outside of that. That was not a fun time, especially for me when I was doing this years ago.
Yeah, I think we've all been there. If you worked in SEO for a long time, you've definitely come across, especially if you've worked on multiple websites. Look at us all nodding. Okay, I'm going to go on to, okay, this question here. What are the best practices for rebuilding the homepage authority after a major ranking drop? If a homepage loses rankings due to factors like core updates, site migrations, or structural changes, what steps have worked best to restore its visibility and trust? So not the entire website, just the homepage itself. Has anybody come across this issue before?
Opinions, if I may.
Go for it.
I would suggest that it is dependent upon what has caused the drop. I would say it's very dependent upon what's caused the drop in the first place, because you can't just, there's no one fix for that. There's a big difference between a migration causing a homepage visibility drop and a technical issue causing a homepage visibility drop, and I don't know, search intent changes. There's so many different things that could be causing that homepage visibility dip that you need to work out what that is first before you can do any remedial action. There's no one size fits all fix for this at all. That would be my very first step, would be identifying what has caused that visibility drop. So is it a change with the algorithms, for example? Have you seen this drop on Google and Bing and other search engines? Because that would then suggest it's a problem with your website rather than something that's happening algorithmically. I would look at, have there been any technical changes that could have affected the homepage, things that you don't even know have happened? You need to speak out to people outside of your team to find out whether there have been changes that could be impacting the homepage that aren't necessarily SEO things. Content changes, has there just genuinely been a change in how people are searching for websites like yours, and the sorts of keywords that used to drive traffic to your homepage are no longer driving traffic to your homepage? So start there, find out exactly what happened to cause the dip, and then you can look at how to fix it.
Great advice. Preeti, have you got any thoughts?
Yeah, like again, Helen just nailed it. And I don't want to add anything else, but just saying that you don't really know if core updates were the reason if your website rankings dropped or something. So you can't really pinpoint. And if you can, as Helen said, it's best to just navigate those problems instead of just jumping to the solutions and trying to find what is good for the website or not. So it's more about just finding the solutions and investigate.
Great advice. Joe, do you have anything to add?
I just want to say I really like how Helen phrased the it is dependent on instead of using it depends. I fully agree with Helen and Preeti on this. I have nothing else to add. I will just write. So I'll just read some of the comments actually of what people have written so far. Albert's actually said, look at your Google Search Console for more insights. Yeah, that's very important. It should tell you. And he's talking about review and improve your internal linking. Monty said also yes to the Google Search Console. Also talk to other teams, find out what's happened. Okay, it's really important to find out what happened. It may not be an issue. It might have been that products out of stock, or that was a big part that was actually on the homepage. So do check with the wider team as well. Simon's also saying have a think and look at what has actually dropped. Is it the brand searches or other queries? Look at the main section of the page. Has that changed as well? You can see in Google, in GA4, are people scrolling less? Scroll down. So lots of different comments here. Back to you, Mike.
Great. Yeah, I agree with everybody. I think what Simon said about just trying to work out, is it branded terms or non-branded terms that you've dropped rankings on? And is it that you've completely disappeared? Or is it a case that you've dropped in terms of rankings? Because that will also help understand the problem. And Preeti was saying, really trying to work out what the problem is in the first place, rather than jumping straight to solutions, would be my main advice. Where I've seen things like this happen before, if it's non-brand, it might be that you've maybe moved content and therefore other pages might be ranking instead of your homepage. It could be that maybe you've got one of those domains that include some of your keywords, and that maybe you shouldn't have been ranking for those terms, but possibly you were. And so sometimes I've seen that happen a few times where other websites have taken over because people are looking for the thing rather than for you. I think I would spend quite a bit of time just in the search results themselves once you determine whether it's a branded, non-branded issue, and work out what's ranking instead. If it's branded, if it's your brand and somebody else is outranking you, and maybe it's a competitor doing like a comparison page or something like that, or you've done something technical on your website that has caused your homepage to drop, because that sounds quite significant, like a significant technical issue if you're not ranking for your brand. I would potentially check to see if you've had any kind of actions or anything like that in Search Console, if it's brand, because as I said, that seems quite significant. But if it's a case that you've dropped from, say, position 1 to position 3, that I wouldn't be as worried about that if it's like non-branded terms, and maybe somebody else has done something more interesting, or like Helen was saying, maybe search intent has changed a little bit. The only other thing I can think of if it's for brand is that I've worked in businesses before where the name of the business is actually something else. So imagine that it's called Juice, for example, but they sell, I don't know, razor blades or something like that. And when people are searching for juice, they're probably looking for juice, not for you if you're not really famous. Things like that have happened where actually intent shift. And it can also work the other way, whereas you might get a really famous brand that's now one of your main keywords. And so it could be lots of things. So I would just, like Preeti was saying at the beginning, I would just really try and work out what is the problem that you're trying to solve, what's happened, get into Search Console, like Simon said, and really go through and understand what are the issues. And it's interesting that it's just the homepage and not the other pages. I guess that's a good thing, that it's not an issue across the entire website. Joe, do we have anything else in the chat, or would anybody else like to add anything before we jump on to the next question?
We have couple of more comments. Mikhail was talking about some news sites. He looks at the canonicals, whether the titles on the homepage match the page titles. Also check the links to the editorial pages are working. Because the question was asked, do we have the website? No, we do not have the website. We cannot share that right now. If anybody has submitted this question and wants to have more detailed, and the same going forwards, please submit your website and we can look into that in more detail for you. Also, just Monty's just asked, are they sure there's the other important pages they haven't seen a drop? So it's important just to look at everything. No, that's it really. Just wanted to say before we go on to the next question, thank you everyone for joining us. We're already halfway through. And thank you for those that are joining us live and those that are watching at home in the recorded version. Obviously, we're showing this every Friday at 9:30 a.m. GMT. If you are enjoying, I'm sure you are. So when you are enjoying the show, click a like and subscribe to the Good Signals YouTube show channel. We are now on our 59th episode, and next week will be 60.
Hey, one last thought on that question. It depends on how much traffic your website gets in the first place. Maybe you don't get any traffic and you're just looking at rankings, and that could just be another thing that it's just like a really small website. It never really gets any traffic. You're monitoring those KPIs, and actually whether you're in, say, position 1 or 5 doesn't make any difference because you're not getting traffic anyway. And they basically could end up coming up with a bigger, you might need to put a strategy together or something like that to improve that altogether. But sometimes you can be looking at these things and thinking, oh, I've dropped from position 10 to position 30, but I wasn't getting anything for that anyway. Great. Okay, next question. My inbox gets a steady stream of guest post requests. Is this actually a viable strategy anymore? I wouldn't touch them. Anybody else?
I'd say it's a terrible strategy. It's never been viable. If you want to make money, then you need to find a different way of marketing to people than spamming their inboxes. Oh, and also the links that they're sending are not viable either.
Great. Preeti, what are you thinking? Not viable, viable?
I think it is just a waste of time, first of all. And the other thing is that guest post has a very bad reputation, mainly because of these spam emails and messages. But if you think about it, websites and publications are already doing guest post to bring more authoritative and experienced people to write for them. So it is good in that sense, but the people who are trying to send out these messages are more sending from making money and traffic and stuff like that. So I would not advise to do something like this, because it not just wastes your time, but it wastes everybody's time. So Yeah, it's not a good thing, basically. But if guest posts are utilized properly in a good way, basically, then it can work. Yeah.
Joe, I've got these 4 websites, DA of over 69, $600 each. What do you say?
No, I'm not paying. But I do think that it is important if you as a person or as a company want to improve your brand or increase your brand, if you are a thought leader in a specific field, I'm going to take it away from SEO. So you love baking really healthy but naughty desserts, high protein. If you want to be known as someone that's you can get fit and eat whatever you want, you want to be writing about these recipes, then yeah, then write on other people's websites, quality sites that are relevant. And that's a way of building your brand. But no, these guest posts that you get in your inbox, they don't work.
I say buy the links and then you can add them straight to your disavow file that you like to update every month.
Gives you something to do. Boom. Okay. Next question we're going to go for is, we'll go for this one. For years, I've put the graft into ranking for my main search term. I offer bespoke public speaking coaching and training. Just before COVID, I finally hit the #1 spot and I stayed there. However, search interest in the term has been on the decline ever since. I've checked the data and trends and it's dropping. To adapt, I've expanded my services to the US. I've started running ads, but conversions aren't great, nowhere near what I see in the UK. What's going on? Are people heading to TikTok or other socials more? Are they just ChatGPTing it instead? Or is there something else at play? Has anybody else seen this happen with their main terms? And more importantly, what should I do?
Very interesting. We don't have a website, do we, for this one?
No, I'm afraid not. By the way, when people submit their problems, they are welcome to share as much or as little as they want. They do it on our site. Sometimes we get a website that we can look through, but in this case, no, unfortunately. Joe, do you want to start?
Oh, reading and digesting this one. Search interest in the term has been under decline and checked trends. I don't think we've got the main search term, what that person has said. Offering bespoke public speaking, coaching, and training. I think it's difficult to know, yeah, what is the term? If there's a certain term that you're after, it would be more like it's important to actually look at a broad range of terms and actually see what's happening in Google Trends. And this applies to anyone, really. Google Trends, they come and go, or trends generally come and go. So if you're wanting to rank for a certain term, people are not searching for it, then I think it might be time to change your strategy. But also, you shouldn't be just looking for one main term. Are people heading to head to TikTok or socials more, or are they just ChatGPTing? So in terms of where are people going, you can look at your analytics as well. I didn't see anything about that in here. So look and see where you're getting your traffic from. Where were you getting your traffic from before? Were you getting it from organic social or not? There's a lot of people that are going more to Instagram and TikTok now than maybe a website. So if there is a competitor and you have a research of some of your competitors that is promoting more content on social media platforms than the website, that might be something to think about for your strategy. Has anyone else seen this happen with their main terms, and what's the smartest move here? I think really just keep ahead of the competition. Review what's going on with your best competitor, who you want to be, and see what they're doing. But really, for some of these types of coaching and training, I've seen a lot more people being active on LinkedIn and Instagram. And this also, and when it comes to training as well, that also goes into personal training. A lot more people seem to be very active in the Instagram space than perhaps pre-COVID. But have a research to see what your competitors are doing. Also research what's the state of the market. There's a lot of studies out there that show where people are going for different industries. So if you're not there, then maybe make a move to do that. Think about your strategy and where you want to go on that.
Great. Preeti, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I think that the main thing that they have said is the public speaking coaching and training. I was looking at the trends for public speaking coaching and training, and I don't see a decline necessarily for that. All I see is the coaching thing is going down a little and the training is going up. So I don't think necessarily they're declining. But the thing is that if I say for myself also, there are times where I go to video-based platforms for things like these to learn about these things, because there are much more authoritative people on, let's say, YouTube or Instagram to offer insights about these things. And and the other thing is that the whatever happened in pandemic when it comes to businesses, like I have seen a lot of businesses like just take off like crazy in COVID, and then it's like just dropping after the pandemic, because somehow it's not relevant anymore, or they like have failed to adapt or something. The point is that whatever was happening in the pandemic or before the pandemic is not necessary that it is happening also right now. And the other thing to focus is that maybe you need to go back to the research thing, like research where your audience is. If I were to get something like this, I would probably just go to the video based platforms. So yeah, I think it's just going back to the research phase and understanding where your audience is searching, and then just creating content for them. It could be search, it could be other platforms, but the thing is that you have to be where they are. So yeah.
Great. Helen, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I just want to touch on the international expansion idea. The person's mentioned that they've tried running ads in America and haven't seen them convert. My question around that would be, what have you done on your website to appeal to a different audience, an international audience? If you're paying for people to land on your website and they're getting a very, say, UK-centric experience, so the phone number is a UK phone number, all of the speaking experience, all of the places that you've offered training are all very UK focused, for example, then that might be a little bit off-putting for someone who's not in the UK. And so if you're looking to internationally expand, you might need to look at how you are tailoring your services or how you are attracting an international audience on your website to help with those conversions. So it might be, if you are looking specifically to attract a US audience through SEO, you might need to look at how you're structuring your website from an international perspective. So you're helping Google, other search engines, to understand that your website is relevant to a US audience, because not only are you now competing against other UK businesses, you're now trying to compete against US businesses as well. So you need to show your relevance to both of those markets. So I'd really think about that in a bit more detail. If you're going to do it, don't do it half-heartedly. Really invest in looking at that international expansion, but make sure it is going to return ROI. Essentially, you're going to get a return on your investment, because if you're doing it, you're going to have to put some time and resources into doing it. And you need to make sure that you're really offering a service for those international audiences. So when they do get to your website, they are going to want to convert. And that's something you really need to think about. Can you offer those services in a way that are going to be attractive to international audiences? For example, if your training courses all happen at a certain time of day, is that going to translate well for audiences who are in a different time zone? Just really think about what you're offering to those audiences outside of your initial starting country before you really invest in trying to internationalize.
Amazing. I was just thinking about the problem. One thing that they've mentioned is about ChatGPTing. And I was thinking that maybe because there's the sort of public speaking element, maybe people are going to places like that now, not necessarily to look for their services, but maybe for things like help with writing a good speech and getting feedback on your speech and stuff like that. And maybe it's a lot easier to basically free speeches and free feedback on your speech. Yeah, it could be something like that. Where you say about dropping in conversions, sorry, you're not getting the same conversions in the US that you are in the UK. I was wondering whether this meant in terms of online conversions, or whether it's actually once they speak to somebody, and it could just be things like time difference and stuff like that, where you're not getting back to people as quickly as you do to people that are in the same time zone as you. But I think what everybody else said is I totally agree with that. I was trying to think about anything else around. Yeah, I guess if I was to write a speech now, I would probably check it via something like ChatGPT or Gemini or whatever. So maybe people are just doing that a bit more. And it's great that you're thinking about how to get in front of, how to basically grow your market by reaching out to other countries. There are testing platforms like cheap ones, BWO, where you could actually try and do like some testing for your US audience to try and tailor your website more to those ads to see if you can improve conversions, if it's a conversion issue, not a traffic issue. Yeah, I haven't got anything else to add. Joe, do you have anything in the chat?
We do, yes. So Simon has mentioned that a slow decline in traffic, it happens. It happens to everyone because your competition is constantly catching up. So the smartest move is really to focus on the longer tail keywords with better search intent, and they should convert better. Do international expansion might be a good idea, Monty's saying, but you need to go back to doing the competitive research and see where you are. I'll also just check your website as well. When was the last time you audited, Monty asks. So lots of comments in our chat. And we've got 10 minutes left to have a couple more questions.
It's that time, isn't it? Okay, we're going to try
one more and then our what are we most excited about?
Okay. It's quite a big one to go for, but let's go for it. The other day, I heard somebody pose a rather thought-provoking question. If your website disappeared today, would anybody notice? And if I'm being honest, it got me thinking, I fear the answer is no. Even with all the time we've invested in design, user experience copy, we were talking about this yesterday, and it's horrid. Even though we've done all this stuff, I suspect our competitors answer searches just as well as us, and in some cases better. But I doubt their absence would be felt either. So how do we create a website that people would truly miss if it were gone? What is that the real secret? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Helen, are you happy to start?
I might cry a bit, but that's sad. That's so sad. But I love that you're thinking about genuinely, are you adding value to the internet? And I think that is a really core question for SEOs. We have somewhat of a deserved reputation for just churning out content or churning out PR campaigns for the sake of those lovely SEO metrics that we all covet. But actually, do we take that step back and think, what am I adding to the world through doing this? And I think that's really key. And I think that's becoming even more important than it's ever been. The content we create needs to be valuable. It needs to show that we are adding something to the internet that isn't there otherwise. So the fact that this person is asking these questions, are they and their competitors actually adding anything of value? If their websites were to shut down today, would anyone notice? Although it's quite a sad thing to think about, it's a good question. It's an honest question. And so I think that's important that we all do that. So I suppose my answer is, what are you adding? What are you adding that's of value? And really concentrate on that, because that is going to be your differentiator. And it's going to be something you're filling a gap in the internet by doing that. And I think that can only help you with your organic strategy. But also just take a step back and know that it's okay. I would miss your website. I don't know what it is, but I would miss your website if it were to not exist tomorrow.
I think so, doesn't it? What the product, if it's like air conditioners, it's quite hard to make somebody really miss that website versus, oh, sorry, got that.
But you're hitting the nail on the head there. It is difficult with those kind of communities, those industries, but I've seen it done really well. There was a website that I was working with, and it was the driest of subjects, but they built a forum around it. And actually people were really seeing the value in being able to, it was a technical thing that I don't care for in any way, but people had questions and they needed to go somewhere where there was other people who could answer those questions and really help them troubleshoot problems with this technical product. And actually they built a huge forum and community around it that was really popular. And if that shut down, there would be a great number of people who would miss it. And it's not something that I would necessarily be spending my sort of social hours trolling through this particular forum, but it served a purpose and people would miss it if it's gone. So think about that sort of thing. What are you adding? Where could you add value to a community that you might need to build around this particularly dry subject if it is one? But it can be done. And so have a think about where you can fill that void.
Great. Preeti, what about you?
I think Helen said it in the best way possible. I just think that it makes me remind of those small websites that are not necessarily like the huge websites, but they are providing value in a way that makes me want to revisit them. And as Helen said, it's more about like filling the gaps. What is something that I can provide that no one else can provide? I don't know. Maybe they have some sort of experience that is much more helpful to people. Maybe they have some unique insights to share or something that helps people realize that this person is useful. And also, this is unrelated, but also with certain YouTube channels, I go back to them and I listen to them, not because they have a huge following or something, but because the thing that they want to say is valuable. It is for me, their opinion is important. So I think it's just creating that sense of being human and not just treating your website as just another form of making money or something, but creating something truly beautiful, if that makes sense.
Amazing. Joe, do you have anything to add?
I have nothing to add. I liked both the answers. I think it's a very sad question.
Yeah.
Make sure that your website makes a difference, I would say. Then people will miss it.
I think you could also flip it on its head where actually you're publishing content in pages that you're proud of. I think in terms of would people miss it, sometimes that could be a bit far-fetched with some industries and some things. But I think if you publish things that you're proud of, and whether that's from a design perspective or the value that you're offering, I think that's good enough. I think you don't need to give a 5-star service every time you go into a bakery, for example. So I think you can just make it a really pleasant and lovely experience. Joe, do we have anything in the chat before we go to the last question?
A good comment from Simon: make a website that people really find useful. Think about the websites you couldn't do without every day, and why is that? What have they got that your site hasn't? Tossin's talking about everyone wants to provide value, but you need to do something of your own. Yeah, I like that from both of you. Thank you.
Yeah, and building in those features that people would really miss or that force them to go back is really good if it's an online product. Okay, last question of the day. We've got a couple of minutes left. Preeti, what are you most excited about from an SEO perspective?
I am excited about the whole evolution of searching and how people are finding information. It's not just about a single platform or search anymore. It's more about like people have options. So I think it's a good thing and a bad thing at the same time. So I think I'm just excited about the evolution and how it will go about in the future, basically.
Amazing. Helen, what are you most excited about from an SEO perspective?
I am most excited to see how many ways we managed to declare SEO is dead this year. Because AI is going to kill SEO and TikTok's going to kill SEO. What else is going to kill SEO? I'm so excited to see. I can't wait for the articles that get written about how some new platform that's just going to be released later this year is killing SEO. And I'm really excited to see how many other ways my career is dead this year.
Joe, what are you most excited about in terms of SEO?
I'm most excited, as always, about events and about communities. Next week is WTS Fest. This is in the London, is London, and the first edition of WTS Fest. The first one's back actually in March 2020. So really pleased to be there. I'll be volunteering. Excited to see many new faces and see ones that I have known for a while. And a big shout out to Women in Tech SEO for having this community, and Areej for creating the community. And so I will not be here next week. I'll be making my way back. And we have a wonderful co-host, Natalia Witschek, who will be in the co-hosting seat. I don't know if you want to come in, Natalia. Maybe Mike makes you come in. Everyone can see who you are.
Oh, 1 second. You're added in. Welcome.
Hello everyone.
So thank you, Natalia, for being the co-host for next week. It is the 60th episode. So tune in next week when Natalia is in the co-host seat, and we'll have loads more questions.
Amazing. Natalia, what are you most excited about in terms of SEO?
No, I wasn't prepared for this.
Sorry.
What I'm excited about in SEO, I'm excited about people talking about Google alternatives and expanding their ideas of what search is and could be. So love Google, work with Google a lot, but I like to see some diversity in the scene.
Yeah, I was freaking out some friends this week where I was I'd created a sort of a video chatbot of myself based off a photo, and you give it a knowledge base and you can use it to embed on websites and stuff like that to help as I was practicing for something that we're doing with a client. But that was very freaky, but also very cool at the same time, where I uploaded my voice and all of this kind of stuff. And I feel like that stuff's really exciting. Great. Okay. I think we'll finish there. Thank you everybody for joining us live. Thank you so much, Preeti and Helen, for speaking today. Natalia, thanks for joining us at the last moment. Joe, thank you so much for co-hosting. Thank you to those watching afterwards on YouTube, and thank you to those that submitted questions. I hope it helped. Happy Valentine's. I hope everybody has a lovely weekend.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for joining us. See you next week with Natalia as co-host on our 60th episode.
Thanks. Oh, somebody's just joining now. Unfortunately, they're going to be very... Anyway, bye, everybody. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.